Hi there, my name is Memo. This is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see something behind me. It's tropical houseplants. Are you somebody that's got a planty person in your life, whether or not it's a family member, a friend, a significant other, and you're always stumped around birthdays or the holiday season that's just about to come up, and you're always wondering, what do I get them? Now, as a planty person, and I have spoken to a few people out there, we get the challenge when it comes to buying for us. The reality is, what happens a lot of the times is that people go for the easy option, which is fine, and we all still love the gifts, and it is obviously the thought that counts behind it, and almost always what ends up happening is we kind of end up with quite a few, usually glass, usually from Amazon, propagation vessels for water propagations. And they're beautiful. A lot of the times, are they the most useful thing? Because sometimes they are meant to look pretty, but don't do that great of a job in terms of being fit for purpose, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's questionable. But I thought, instead of, because I know that a lot of people are going to be bringing out kind of Christmassy videos, but I thought I'd kind of maybe address this and maybe give some ideas. And if you are a planty person, and obviously you've come to my channel as always, welcome back. This might be an interesting little video in a not kind of bad way to just kind of send to friends and family and just kind of go, watch. Yes, this might be a few things in here that might be of interest, basically. So let's dive into kind of a couple of ideas. And again, I've spoken to loads of planting friends, and we were trying to think, and it's just like, well, obviously that people will go for the propagation vessels because that's an obvious thing potentially, or maybe get us some seeds of something and all these things. And as I said, they're lovely, and we all do love it. And it's nice that you've kind of taken that extra step to kind of go for something that we might be interested in, which is kind of plants. And that is quite nice. But again, if you just want to up it up a notch, essentially, and you're kind of stuck as to maybe things to consider, let me give you a few tips. And I do encourage everybody who's a plant person that's watching this video, comments down below, because again, some of the things that might be quite obvious to us because we deal with this on a day in, day out basis, most of our friends, family members, significant others don't necessarily know this. And it's completely fine, but let's give some of your own suggestions down below as well. That's what I'm trying to say. But let's dive into the first one. And I've got some affordable options and I've got some slightly pricier options. You'll see as we go along, basically. But let's go into the first one. So the first one, if you really are kind of stuck, but you want to give something really kind of unique and something a bit different, and there is that level of excitement attached to this. And I know that there's a lot of plant shops that are doing this during the pandemic. I'm pretty sure they will bring it back around the holiday season as well, which is something that the person in your life who's a plant person might buy from certain companies all the time. If you're kind of like a bit sneaky and you can kind of figure out what company it is, or they probably tell you on a regular basis, maybe because most of us do like talking about plants, check out that company's website. And a lot of times they've got mystery boxes, which essentially is just a box with a few plants in there. It's set prices. Sometimes companies, if they do that a lot, might have different levels of mystery boxes, some slightly more expensive ones, some slightly more affordable ones. And you can get that for your loved one. Obviously, when you're buying something like live plants, timing might be a bit of an issue there. And this will apply to any of the suggestions that include plants in this video. Is it might be a gift that you have to give that individual before Christmas. I would definitely encourage you, in case anybody's thinking, oh, I'll buy a live plant, but I'll keep it in a box for a few days before I give it to my loved one. That will cause them no end of stress. So trust me when I say, if it gets delivered before Christmas, give it to them before Christmas. They will be very, very thankful, especially certain types of gifts that have the kind of rarer or more difficult plants to find as well. Trust me, you don't want to see that look on that planty person's face if something's been sat in a box and it doesn't look that great when they get them. Don't get me wrong, they will still appreciate it and they will bring it and nurse it back to life. You have given them something to do for the following few weeks, but in an ideal world, try not to. Just give it to them early, it's fine. But yeah, something like planty mystery boxes are kind of cool. Yes, because this is a kind of concern that I get from some of my friends who, I don't think anybody has ever bought me a plant from my friends and family. And it's mainly because they're just like, you've got so many, we don't want to buy you something because you might have it. This isn't just me, I don't think. And I know there might be some people out there that might be slightly pickier. We all still get excited by a plant. It doesn't matter if we've already got it. It doesn't matter if we had it and got rid of it. It's very kind of significant. I've got plants that I didn't like to begin with. I wouldn't have necessarily bought them, but friends or family, like there was actually one friend that gave me for Christmas actually a pup of one of their, it was a succulent. I can't remember which one it is at the moment. It's kind of skipping my mind. Still love it, still got it. This has got a significant story behind it, and the fact that somebody took that effort, even more so because nobody ever buys me plants. It has value, so don't stress about it too much. Most people will love it, and even if they don't and you're worried about how it works, we all know how to sell and exchange plants for other plants we might want. So it's a good thing. Don't worry about it too much. Carrying on in the same kind of theme, and this might require you to do a bit of snooping on their Instagram sometimes. If they've got a YouTube channel like myself, check out their YouTube channel because they probably have this. They'll probably be sharing their wish list of plants. Now, this isn't the same as a mystery box. This might be just one plant that they really want from a selection of loads of different plants that they want. I'm not going to lie, a lot of the times when things are in wish lists is because they're slightly harder to find or slightly expensive or very expensive. So this might be a slightly pricier option in terms of a gift. But if you really want to go all out, this might be an interesting one and you want to make a big gift out of it and all these things. There is going to potentially be a risk again that that person might have not updated their wish list and they've already got that wish list plant. Depends on how well you know them as well. But trust me, again, if you're getting a wish list plant, it's what I was talking about earlier. They can swap it, they can sell it and get something else that they want because it's a high value item. So, and trust me, they will 1000% appreciate the fact that you not only took the kind of made the effort to get them a plant, but you went that extra step and looked at their wish list and searched yourself because they know how hard it can be or how expensive it can be as well. Oh, trust me, this is usually one of those gifts that significant others or partners or husbands and wives tend to buy for their significant other, essentially, because it's a bit more like, wow. Have a look at my video with Tanya where she mentioned, I think her husband got her a plant. I'm just like, oh, that's a good husband. That's a good husband. Look at the plant. You will get loads of kudos point, not just from your significant other, but also probably from their plant friends, trust me. But yeah, so that could be one thing is just have a look at their wish list. Start Googling. We've come a long way in the last few years. You should be able to, by Googling, at least come onto some websites where you can buy this plant. If you can, and again, this is mainly talking to people that are not planty people, the rest of us kind of know this now. If you can find it locally, and by locally I mean in your own country to buy, do that if you can. It might be slightly more expensive than buying it from abroad, but there's more of a chance if it's coming from your own country that it won't have too many delays and you should get a relatively pristine plant. Because what you don't want is to get a plant that looks a bit sickly and sad and then give it to somebody. As I mentioned, we might probably all still appreciate it because it will give us something to nurse back into health. But if you want it to have that wow factor, see if you can get it more locally. You might not always be able to, your budget might also not stretch to that level and you can only get it from a different country because it's going to be a bit cheaper, but that's fine as well. But yeah, let's move on. I'll stay on the planty bit and then we'll kind of look at non-planty gifts as well. And obviously with the non-planty gifts, that can be packaged up quite nicely in boxes with bows and like wrapping paper if you want to go down that route for the special day, whether or not it's the holiday season, whether or not it's kind of something like Christmas or birthdays or anything like that, those will kind of work. But the plants, get them closer to the time when you want to give them, basically. The other thing, and this could be for the people that are really, really on a budget and maybe don't want to spend an awful lot of money or any money at all. Probably will be some money involved. I doubt that it's going to be an entirely kind of like freebie kind of situation. But if you know that your loved one who's into plants and you know some of their planty friends, or at least can reach out to them via Instagram or anything like that, 9 times out of 10, their closest planty friends will know what your loved one might want in terms of plants. They might also have the type of plant that your significant other wants. And if you can't afford to pay for a big one, ask if you can buy some cuttings from them. They'll also be able to advise you, not always, but they might also be able to advise you and kind of say, oh, no, don't get that because I know for a fact your loved one got that a while back, so they've already got that, basically. But something like cuttings is a slightly more affordable option than getting something like a full plant. And again, for the uninitiated, get a few cuttings if you want. You can only get a handful. You can only get the one if you want. That's fine. Depends on the plant, obviously. But it will give them something to do, and watch them when they get that gift. Spend the next few hours just getting really excited by using different propagation methods, or where they're going to put it, how much light is it going to get, how much water is it going to get, how often do they need to check on it. Like, they'll start doing the research. Watch their eyes light up, essentially. And to be fair, even if you don't have one of their planty friends that you can reach out to in order to help you choose some of these plants, you might still just find people that are selling cuttings and get them a selection of cuttings, basically. At some point, one of those things might be something that they really wanted, and even if they've got 50 or 100 of the same plant and they've been propagating it for ages, I'll come back to what I was talking earlier on. That thought alone, that you went through all of this process to get them something that they would like, I would strongly believe that they're going to appreciate it one way or another, basically. So yeah, so cuttings are another slightly more affordable option in terms of getting them a small plant. There are certain companies as well. I know this, I think it might just be called baby plants in the UK. You can also do this in garden centres and nurseries where they have got some of the more difficult to find plants, but not in full size, but baby, like kind of plug plants as well. So they're quite small. Those are kind of cool as well because you can do a bit of a pick and mix and go, ooh, I'll take 5 of these and then give them to them. Trust me, baby plants. We all like a good baby plant. It's fine. So moving into the non-plant type gifts. And these are obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, ones you can package up and give them on the big day, whether or not it's kind of the holiday season or birthdays or anything like that. But, and I've got my list, so you're kind of looking at me seeing down, basically. One of the big things that you could get for them, and I'll leave kind of lists of this down in the description below, you can get them something like a propagation box set. And unfortunately, I think, as far as I'm aware, there's not a lot of people that are selling this as a pre-made set. Some plant stores online might do that, or might start to do that over the Christmas period, but usually it will be, and you might be able to see down below there, it will be something like a clear plastic box. You'll have some growing media, maybe some fertilizer with it as well, maybe some small pots and things like that. Trust me, and it's just so sad. Yes, some people will really appreciate those kind of really ornate vase-like propagation things, and obviously still, if you want to get them that, please do. But for the really kind of keen, like if your loved one has got loads of plants, and you might say they've already got something like that, we can never have enough. Yes, it might be a struggle where we're going to put them, but it's a very useful gift for them. So I'll link a little group of things down below, at least the stuff that I find, and I can find these things on Amazon a lot of the time. So the media, the little clear box. If you want to go the extra mile, you can get some grow lights so they can sit on top of, and all of these things, or maybe even something like a heat mat underneath to kind of speed up the process with a thermostat. I'll put it down below and mix and match basically. But as long as you've got the clear box and maybe some substrate, everything else you can just kind of add in and it will be a bit more interesting. And it's a very thought out gift for somebody who's in the planty world and they've seen this and they've not seen this video specifically. They'll be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I got stuff that I can do. And again, watch them go crazy either on their birthday when you give it to them or their holiday season, Christmas or anything like that. You've given them something to do, basically, because even the people that have got propagation boxes, I would hazard a guess every single one of the propagation boxes that they've got is pretty much in use at all times. So giving them a brand new shiny propagation box with all the paraphernalia, they're going to be going around the house mad with like pairs of scissors and like chopping things and like propagating. Yeah, trust me. They will appreciate it. You can also, if you want to maybe go the extra mile and you know that I've met different types of kind of planty people, the ones that really want to muck in and do everything themselves, and the ones that just want to have an easy life. They still have a large collection, they still want to do things. But you can get kind of pre-made propagation boxes, and I cannot remember one now, and I'll put the name up here below, and I'll link one down below, where essentially it's a propagation box. I think it might even come with some grow lights on it, but it's this kind of spray. It's a hydro propagator, if I'm not mistaken. And it's an interesting one because not a lot of people will necessarily have it, even the real kind of plant fanatics. I don't have it. I know some people do have it, but it's a really cool one because it's got that kind of slightly gadget feel about it. And yeah, again, watch them kind of go slightly crazy with that one. A lot of the times they'll come with all the bits and bobs that are needed within it, rather than you having to get different bits and bobs and then package in a bigger box essentially. But that's another cool option to consider. And it might again not be something that your loved one would have necessarily purchased for themselves, but it might be, I think for a lot of people when I've spoken to them, it is something that's at least in their kind of awareness, but for whatever reason, we don't ever end up getting one, although we would quite like one, if that makes sense. So yeah, that might be an interesting one for you to give them something that they've wanted. And coming into the notion of pre-made things and talking a bit more like Amazon, because a lot of people will buy from Amazon, regardless of what we all think, yay or nay, for Amazon and all these things. And this doesn't just apply to Amazon, but Amazon does have wish lists for people. If you're really stuck and you're quite happy to have this conversation with your loved one, I'm almost sure that they should have a wish list for planty stuff that they need, essentially. And if they don't, and you ask them, I'm pretty sure as long as they know how to create that wish list, they will create one quite quickly, put the stuff that they would like in it, and then give you the link to that wish list. And it's an easy way because you know that that person wants the items that's on that wish list. Same thing goes, and this is where I don't know outside of Amazon, because I know a lot of planty websites will have things like wish lists. I don't know whether or not those wish lists are shareable with anybody other than the person that creates it, if that makes sense. But if that is, and they can provide you with that as well, again, you know that that is something that they want as well. The good thing is, if you ask them for a wish list, I will probably tell you what's going to happen is they're going to rush to look at their wish list, and if they've got anything that they've already bought from that wish list, they will remove that quite quickly. So you don't end up buying them a duplicate. So that is another option, things like wish lists. On the same kind of line of thought is things like gift vouchers. And yes, I know gift vouchers are not the most exciting thing in the world. And I've worked in marketing for many, many years, and I've actually run marketing campaigns where there was a gift of like a low value and a gift voucher, which was a high value. You'd be surprised how many people went, if you were just looking at the same thing, how many people would actually go for the lower value gift because they can go like, oh, I really want that. It's a thing that I can kind of visualize and go, yes, I want that one thing. So yes, rather than a gift voucher. The gift voucher, the thought process is, but they can buy what they want. And yes, but then there's also, yeah, it's slightly different. You don't ever get excited about just going, it's the same as giving somebody money, essentially, if that's what you want. There is, at least in my opinion, different levels of gift vouchers. So you can give them an Amazon gift voucher and they can spend it on whatever they want to be. It might be a planty thing, it might not be. I mean, that's something that you might do anyway for somebody. But if you go for gift vouchers from planty stores, a lot of the times the plant stores are kind of relatively small businesses. So they will appreciate that kind of money coming into them as well, especially as a lot of places over the world are kind of struggling at the moment. A lot of small businesses are actually very close to closing, if not already closing. So they would really appreciate that. And your loved one will go like, ooh, you didn't just get me an Amazon voucher, you got me a planty voucher. Great. Do you see? There's different levels there. So yeah, that is another one to kind of consider. And now we start getting off, and I'll wrap up with the more utilitarian type of gifts. And they might not seem that exciting to you. However, if your loved one is a crazy plant person like myself, these are things that I would quite appreciate to get from somebody, even if they seem really pedestrian, if that makes sense. So one of those things would be something like substrate. And I talked and I did the unboxing from Soil Ninja. That's one that I can definitely say is very good quality. Again, not sponsored. And I'll link them down below as well. But they've got all different sorts of growing media. I mean, I know that's based in the UK. You should be able to find places or even plant stores that sell things like soil mixes, or even if it isn't a soil mix, you can get them something like a gift. And again, I know this is gonna sound ridiculous, but please, if there's any planty people out there that are watching this video, especially some of my regular viewers, comment down below if you agree with me, if you'd be happy to get something like this. Again, as I said, it's not as exciting as maybe getting a plant. But if somebody got you a bag of perlite, a bag of coco coir, a bag of like things that you would use anyway all the time to propagate, would you not be happy? Because then you just don't have to buy it. I mean, even if you've already got some of that stuff there, it's not a plant, it doesn't need to be taken care of. And as long as you've got the space to put it, you're gonna eventually use that, and it's one less thing that you need to buy. I would say that that is probably kind of a cool gift as well. And the thing is as well, some of this substrate stuff can be quite expensive. For a lot of people, they might not be able to buy it all the time. I'm thinking of things like Le Choose-a-Pon or even semi-hydro mixers. The big quantities can get quite pricey, and depending on your loved one's kind of budgetary restrictions, they might only buy it so often because it's too expensive. So getting them something like that would be like, ooh, I can buy this for a few months, so you've got it for me earlier, or I can't buy this at all, and I've been wanting to try this for a long time, but I didn't want to risk my own money to kind of get this. They might get a bit excited with things like that. So I will link again a few things down below. You could potentially buy, I'll also kind of say now, anything that's kind of Amazon store related, I've kind of got an affiliate account with them, so a small portion of if anything is bought will come to me, but it does help to support the channel. Things like lights and cameras do not come cheap. So yeah, but the other thing is, so that's substrates, that's the one thing. The other big thing is things like grow lights. And again, for the non-planty people out there, it might be a minefield. I'll leave some of my favorites. I think they're already listed. They're pretty much on all my videos, the grow lights that I use, but they are down below. But you don't even need to be like you can have a look at some of the ones that I have. You can just search on places like Amazon. They tend to be on the cheaper side of things. You can just do a Google search for grow lights, and a lot of them are quite aesthetically pleasing. So I think Soltech Solutions is one that's based in the US. There's a few more that have come up which are much more aesthetic. They are much more expensive as well. So that might be a gift for, it might be a special gift for somebody who's very much into their aesthetics and their looks of their space and all these things, and their very curated collection and everything looks pristine. If you've got somebody like me who their conservatory just looks a bit like a crazy person's greenhouse, standard looking grow lights are fine. I would say for most of us. Don't get me wrong, we would still appreciate the pretty ones. But yeah, if you can get one pretty one for X price and you can get 5 equally probably good ones that don't look quite as pretty for the same price, at least for people like me, just get me the 5. I will use all of them. It's absolutely fine. They don't need to look great. They just need to serve a purpose. But again, hopefully you'll know your loved one enough to be to tell what kind of individual they are and which one of the two they would prefer. And I'll wrap up with a random one that people might not expect. Getting things like fertilizer for the year. It might not seem like the most interesting or exciting thing that you can think of, but trust me, and ask them what kind of fertilizer they use for their plants as well, because again, depending on their collection, they could have different fertilizers for different plants. They could have standard houseplant fertilizer, they could have an organic fertilizer, they could have a leave-in fertilizer, they could be doing hydroponics kind of fertilizer, soil amendments, all of these things, which are really, really interesting. And what you can do, dependingly, and it's, again, it might sound ridiculous. It probably won't to your loved one who's a planty person. Something like a year's supply of their favorite fertilizer. Or go and find a few fertilizers that you can see either through Google or Amazon that might be, again, hopefully you'll know if they're really into their organic or they're vegan or they're any kind of thing that they're really into in their real life will probably translate into the fertilizers that they might be using. I use liquid gold leaf predominantly for mine, and I've always got it linked down below, but that's just me, and you can get it in the UK. I don't think you can get it anywhere else just yet. But yeah, so it's an interesting one because you can get them a year's supply, or you can give them a mix and match of things, because it could be stuff that, and you don't necessarily always need to know what fertilizer they're using. Arguably, it's probably better if you don't, because the reality is you'll probably end up getting them something different that they might have not have tried, that they might want to try, or they might something that might have never have heard of, and they could try it. And again, the point of making it a gift is something like a year's supply or half a year's supply, which in reality might only be one, depending on the fertilizer. So I know with liquid gold leaf for a lot of people, it's like one or like 6 months to a year is one bottle. You'd be scared on how quickly I get through mine. But you can get like a few bottles, like 2, 3 bottles, and that should last them for the year. Again, depending on the size of their collection, but it's a slightly interesting gift, and it's different from the kind of normal propagation vessels that everybody gets. And actually, I will add one thing, and it's not a utilitarian one. It might be quite an interesting one for the slightly more artistics on there. Go on to Etsy and look at planty gifts or plant-related art. Because depending, and again, you should know this hopefully by your kind of loved one, if they're the kind of person who's got like planty earrings or their cushions look like a monstera leaf, they probably like decorative items which are related to plants as well. Discover some of that, and that could be something that they would really quite appreciate getting. I always say this, check, because not everybody's into that aspect of it basically, and it's going to be, I mean, they're probably still going to love it and they use it, but if you really want to make an impact, just check it, because if somebody's already into that whole kind of vibe and the tropical aesthetics in terms of decorative items, either on themselves or in their home, they would probably appreciate that. And I think Etsy's a relatively good place to kind of find things like that. Again, supporting some smaller businesses, not just the Amazons of the world. But yes, I think I have prattled on for far too long. Hopefully you stayed for as much as this as you could. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I hope the gift giving goes really well and they love it. But yeah, speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye.